Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 24th of September 2022. With officially autumn now upon us, I'm afraid to say that the nights will start to draw in and the evenings will start to get darker. With this said, I myself do enjoy the different seasons. I think each has different outdoor and indoor activities to offer. So, for example, walking through a crisp cold morning with your feet crunching on the ground on the snow. I appreciate there's more likely that I will get snow in Petersfield than you will on the Isle of Wight, compared to sitting in the sunshine enjoying the summer. This week we have got the newsletter all produced and ready, and it has gone off for printing. It should be with you at the very beginning of October. It of course includes a tribute to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and our thoughts are particularly with her close family at this very sad time. It also includes lots of society news, what we're doing, the activities over the coming months, and articles from trustees, volunteers and members alike. We very much hope you enjoy the newsletter, and please never forget, if you've got anything you would like to share with other members, any life experience, tips or just your own story, never hesitate to get in touch with the office. Thank you very much. Lisa, CEO, Sight for White.
Hello everyone, this is Steve reading a story from Island Echo, headlined Trading Standards to Take Up Investigation into Fraudulent Activity in Sandown. Trading Standards have been called in to take up an investigation of fraud against 4 men arrested in Sandown on Friday afternoon. As previously reported by Island Echo, police were calling at 11:25 on Friday morning to report of men in a van knocking on doors asking for work. It followed social media posts reporting the same thing the day before. Officers conducted inquiries and made 4 arrests of men working out of a suspicious Toyota van on Leeds Street in the town at around 2:10 that afternoon. The men, aged 53, 44, 23 and 18, and all from Woking, were arrested on suspicion of fraud by false representation. It has now been confirmed nearly a week later that Trading Standards are to take over the investigative process. An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson said, "We are working in collaboration with the police regarding this matter, and consequently it's under further investigation by Trading Standards. We are unable to comment further at this time while inquiries are ongoing."
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Disruption expected as 12 weeks of Fairlie roadworks start. Islanders have been told to expect disruption on a main road into Newport from Tuesday. Southern Water is carrying out 12 weeks of work on Fairlie Road near Medina College. Pipes are being replaced along the route. 2-way temporary traffic lights are expected to be in place for the first phase. It is anticipated this will last 5 to 6 weeks. There will also be up to 3 nights of closure to minimise disruption to the leisure centre and Medina College. A sign warns the overnight closures come into effect between 7:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. from Monday, September the 26th. Southern Water has apologised for the traffic disruption the work will cause. Island Roads has said it will monitor the progress.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Queen's funeral. Public and royals bid farewell to monarch at Windsor. Hundreds of thousands of people have travelled to London and Windsor for the state funeral and burial service, which is being watched on television by millions around the world. The Queen's coffin has arrived at Windsor Castle, where she will be laid to rest beside her husband, as the nation bids farewell to Britain's longest reigning monarch. Thousands of people lined the long walk and broke out in applause as the coffin was carried in a procession to the landmark. A committal ceremony is taking place at St George's Chapel in the grounds of the castle, followed by a private burial service attended by senior royals. The Queen's final resting place will be the King George VI Memorial Chapel, and annexed to the main chapel where her mother and father were buried, along with the ashes of her sister, Princess Margaret. The coffin of the Queen's beloved husband, Prince Philip, will be moved from the royal vault to the memorial chapel to join her. In a touching gesture, the late monarch's two faithful friends, her corgis, Muick and Sandy, were part of the day and made an appearance outside St George's Chapel. Around 800 people, including members of the Queen's household and Windsor estate staff, attended the committal service. Prior to the final hymn, the imperial state crown, the orb and the sceptre were removed from the Queen's coffin and placed on the altar. Earlier, the King led members of the royal family in a procession to Westminster Abbey for the Queen's state funeral, where world leaders were among the congregation at the hour-long service. In a personal touch, the wreath adorning the Queen's coffin had a handwritten note written by the King, which read, "In loving and devoted memory, Charles R."
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Boy arrested after machete and drugs found in incident outside Newport McDonald's. A teenage boy has been arrested after a machete and drugs were found during a search outside McDonald's in Newport. Whilst dealing with a concern for welfare incident outside McDonald's, St James's Street, shortly after 6:30 p.m. on Sunday the 18th, police stopped and searched 3 individuals, including one who was said to be obstructive. During the search of the particular individual, a 15-year-old boy, officers seized a quantity of suspected MDMA, magic mushrooms and a machete. He was subsequently arrested on suspicion of being concerned in the supply of Class A drugs and possession of an offensive weapon in a public place. He has since been bailed with conditions until October the 16th while the investigation continues. Inquiries also led to the arrests of 3 further individuals on suspicion of being concerned in the supply of Class B drugs. They are a 47-year-old man, a 47-year-old woman and a 19-year-old man. All 3 have been released from custody but remain under investigation while inquiries continue.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio, headlined, Ice Rink to Return for Newport's Popular Day of Christmas. Following the success of last year's event, when islanders came in their hundreds to use a pop-up ice rink and enjoy festivities across the town, organisers have promised to bring the event back bigger and better. Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council, Market Days CIC and Skates have come together to bring even more fun and festivities this year with free roller skating sessions, giant inflatables, snow globe and circus training. Councillor Shirley Smart, the chair of the NCCC, said, "We are proud of how our event has grown and we are delighted to once again be providing a free family event that kicks off the festive season and culminates in the switching on of the town's lights. The Quay will host an ice rink as well as an inflatable assault course and snow globe, weather permitting, a circus workshop and food stalls. Popular roller rink Skates is providing free roller skating sessions for the event. Owner Mark Rooney said, "I built skates for our island community to enjoy. What better way to say that than by offering our venue for all to enjoy at this Day of Christmas event? What fun! A bustling Christmas market will also bring festive sights and smells to St Thomas's Square." Market Days CIC Director Claire Kennard said, "Market Days CIC will be back in St Thomas Square with a large Christmas market, and we are really delighted to be part of this fabulous event. Newport has seen some fantastic events over this year, including the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and it is wonderful to be a small part of this movement to regenerate Newport and bring the community together." There will be an opportunity to join Heritage Service Manager Richard Smout on a short walk to learn secrets about the history of Newport. Characters including the Grinch will be walking around throughout the day, and local school and community choirs will be performing. A large stage will be in St James's Square, providing a variety of entertainment throughout the day until 5:45 p.m, when a magical circus-themed show, The Greatest Snowman, will switch on the town's Christmas lights. Due to their huge popularity, booking systems will be in place for the ice rink, the skates, roller skating sessions and history tours, and these will open shortly. Further details will be released soon, while the list of activities grows, but for now, NCCC invites you to save the date. To inquire about a stallholder pitch in the market, please contact info@marketdaysiow.com.
This is Patrina reading from Island Echo. Programme of works to lay anti-skid on the island's roads to begin next week. A programme of safety work to lay high-friction surfaces at locations across the island is to begin shortly. Island roads will be laying new anti-skid surfacing or replacing worn sections at more than a dozen sites in a 3-week programme starting on Cowleys Hill, Shanklin, on Tuesday the 20th of September. As the sites are traditionally busy sections of the road network, all work will be done at night under either a road closure or with temporary traffic lights in operation. High friction surfacing, HFS, involves the application of a layer of very high quality aggregate that helps motorists maintain better control in both dry and wet driving conditions. Typically, HFS is applied on the approaches to busy junctions, at pedestrian crossings, or at sharp bends on roads with higher speed limits. The fact HFS is usually coloured also serves as a visual reminder to motorists to take additional care. Besides Cowleys, HFS will be laid at the following sites: Blackwater Hollow on the bends between Bridleway 41 and Birchmoor Lane, Calbourne Road, Newport, on the approach to Carisbrook, Merston Lane, God's Hill, at the approach to Bohemia Corner, Pyle Street, Newport, at the approach to Drill Hall Road, Culver Parade Sandown at the pedestrian crossing outside Dinosaur Isle, Ventnor High Street Junction with Madeira Lane, Marlborough Road Ride at the junction with Somerset Road, Berry Chute, Chillerton, at the junction with Berry Lane, Cockleton Lane, Gurnard, at the junction with Hilton Road, Gurnard Pines, Whitwell Road, Ventnor, outside Ventnor Rugby Club, Ventnor Road at Apps Heath. In most cases, the work will be completed in between 1 to 3 shifts. Some preparation work, such as the replacement of the existing surfacing, may be required at some sites. Because HFS must be laid in mild, dry conditions, the programme is subject to change depending on the weather. Although the weather is looking positive for the next week according to the Isle of Wight Met Service, Keith Gowler, Island's road construction manager, has said, because these locations are, by their nature, busy sections of the network, we hope that working at night will reduce the impact on the travelling public. But we are sure residents will appreciate the need to keep the network as safe as possible, and we thank them in advance for their understanding.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Demolition work underway at Newport Residential Home as plan for new homes revealed. Demolition work has started on the derelict former residential care home Polars on Staplers Road. In recent months, calls have been received from the community and nearby neighbours for the building to be tidied up and made safe. Some neighbours said they were fearing for their safety. Ryde Demolition started work in February to clear the inside of the property and make the site suitable for building, but now major work to pull down the building has commenced. The Polars building dates back to at least 1840 and in 1955 was taken over by Somerset Care, who ran the home until 2017, when financial difficulties saw the home close. It was then sold to its current owner, Laurie Gassar, but has become a target of vandals and fallen into a state of disrepair. Plans have now been placed before the Isle of Wight Council by Specialised Supported Housing, SSH, to build 24 houses to be sold on the open market, plus 20 supported living units. The supported accommodation would be aimed at disabled adults and cater for 24 residents in 12 one-bed apartments, 6 one-bed bungalows and 2 three-bed apartments. It is proposed SSH would build the scheme and then lease the housing to providers such as Southern Housing Group or Vectis Housing, the planning statements suggest, who would then maintain and manage the property. Through its planning agent, Andrew White Planning Consultancy, SSH say the alternative scheme is necessary because it only has a limited time to pursue its proposal. The planning application is still awaiting a decision by the Isle of Wight Council.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from Island Echo, headlined, Island-run family business wants to expand coffee empire by building on site at Newport Harbour. An island-run family business has unveiled major plans to regenerate a site at Newport Harbour. Already based in Blackhouse Quay on the River Medina, Isle of Wight Espresso Company is looking to improve its coffee roasting and processing facility, as well as creating a coffee shop, visitor centre and accredited barista training centre. The company have been based on the harbour side since 1990, leasing 2 warehouses from the Isle of Wight Council. Now that one lease has run out, the company has asked the council to buy both sites, feeling it is the most viable option to enable development due to the significant level of investment needed. The coffee company already runs Cafe Isola on Upper St James's Street in Newport, but is looking to expand its offer and brand. In a letter to the council, the company says the existing warehouse requires significant work just to bring it up to a fully usable condition. This includes removing a suspected asbestos roof, which has been leaking since before they moved in, stabilisation works and connection to drainage systems. It wants to fully regenerate the warehouse to improve its flood defences and create a multi-use space. The company would also like to lease an area of the waterfront from the council to provide floating amenities such as eco-focused holiday accommodation. The council's harbour committee is being asked to approve the Isle of Wight Espresso Company as a special purchaser of the 2 warehouses at its meeting on Wednesday 28th of September. Newport Harbour is due to undergo major regeneration work, but investment is being sought to bring the council's master plan to life. The proposals from the coffee company are outside of the area earmarked for regeneration. Instead, the council said, investment in the site would be complementary to the regeneration plans and enhance the appeal of the harbour as a visitor destination. While the Isle of Wight Council would lose a rental income stream of around £175 a year for the 2 leases, the sale would result in money that would be ring-fenced to the Newport Harbour accounts.
This is Patrina reading an article from Island Echo. Arrests made after youth armed with knife attacks man in East Cowes. The National Police Air Service helicopter was drafted in to help locate a youth, reportedly armed with a knife, following an assault in East Cowes during the early hours of Saturday morning. At around 2 a.m, police were alerted to an alleged assault on Yarborough Road, in which a 19-year-old is said to have been assaulted by a youth armed with a knife. The victim was hit in the face and lost a tooth as a result. This happened in the grounds of the church near the junction with Adelaide Grove. A crime scene cordon was erected but had been lifted by 5 a.m. The Bournemouth-based police helicopter spent around 30 minutes circling the skies above East Cowes. It has now been confirmed to Island Echo that a 16-year-old boy and a 17-year-old boy have both been arrested on suspicion of assault. The duo remain in custody at Newport Police Station for questioning.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Critical incident declared by Isle of Wight NHS Trust due to significant demand on its services. Another critical incident has been declared at the Isle of Wight NHS Trust due to demand on its services. A continuing increase in demand for emergency care has put the Trust under significant pressure and said it is only able to treat new patients with life-threatening conditions and injuries. Delays in discharging people home or into social care settings mean that St Mary's Hospital has reached capacity. In order to maintain the safety of our services, some planned surgical activity has been postponed, but we will continue to prioritise cancer treatment and urgent operations, as well as people who have already had long waits for their treatment. Steve Parker, Medical Director, said, "The safety of our patients and our staff remain our top priority. We are working closely with partners to improve the flow of patients through the hospital, and we are appealing to our local community to help us ensure that patients get home as soon as possible and to only come to our emergency department, ED, for life-threatening conditions and injuries. While we are in this period of sustained high demand, we urge you not to attend the ED unless it's an emergency. NHS 111 online can help you find where to get help and support. The Trust is asking members of the public to help by collecting family and friends from hospital as soon as they are ready to be discharged to free up beds for those who need them. Visit NHS 111 or call NHS 111 for health advice, or alternatively contact your local pharmacist or GP. Think about the most appropriate NHS service for your needs and to only call 999 in the event of life-threatening illness or injury. Stay away from our hospitals if you have symptoms or are in contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID-19.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from Island Echo, headlined "Man who stole goods including duvet covers from shops in Newport given community order." A serial shoplifter who stole over £220 from Newport supermarkets has been given a community order. Aaron Rook, who's 43, of Barton Road in Newport, pleaded guilty to 3 times theft from a shop and failing to surrender when he appeared in front of magistrates. The court heard that on no fewer than 3 occasions, Rook entered shops in Newport and stole numerous goods of varying value. Anne Smout, prosecuting, said that on the 12th of August, Rook and an accomplice entered Morrison's in Newport, placing bottles of alcohol totalling £58 into a bag and leaving without paying. The day after, from Sainsbury's in Newport, he and the same accomplice stole £200 worth of homeware, namely duvet covers and kitchen knives, from the shop without paying for them. Finally, on 31st of August, a day after Rook had appeared in court for a similar offence, he stole £226 from the Entertainer toy shop in Newport. Goods were recovered whilst Rook was arrested after he left the premises. Defending, Barry Arnott said that his client has been battling drugs for almost 10 years, and up until recently, when he was offered accommodation from the Salvation Army, was living in a tent. Aaron Rook was handed a 9-month community order and ordered to pay £29 in compensation to Morrison's in Newport and £200 in compensation to Sainsbury's.
This is Patrina reading an article from Island Echo. The Isle of Wight had a narrow brush with the plague in 1743. On this day in 1743, a vessel carrying crew members suffering from the plague came close to transmitting the deadly disease to the inhabitants of the Isle of Wight. The island had taken great care that the 18th century pandemic was not passed on to locals. However, 2 local fishermen who were crab fishing approached the Dutch ship, the Resolute, which was suspected of having the plague on board. The ship was moored off the back of the Isle of Wight. In the 18th century, the authorities were more ruthless in their measures to combat transmittable disease, unlike the recent coronavirus pandemic. Troops were even dispatched to kill suspected plague carriers. A letter from Portsmouth dated the 18th of September 1743 described the alarming situation. Notwithstanding all the precautions we have taken here, on Friday last the Dutch ship, the Resolute, supposed to have the plague on board, came to the back of the Isle of Wight, and 2 men who were catching crabs, one of them brother to Boyce, the famous smuggler, now in the Fleet prison, were so indiscreet as to go along the side of her. They told them they were homeward-bound Indian men and wanted provisions, on which their 2 men came on shore and carried off a fat sheep and some butter, and then returned to their houses. By this time the country was so alarmed, and arming themselves went directly to kill them, or at least make them return to their boat. They surrendered immediately and went where they were ordered, the guard following at a distance. They are now at Mother Bank, where they are to perform quarantine in their small open boat. They said they saw but 8 on deck, all seemed well in health. The folly of these fellows has put us all in the utmost consternation, and the chief talk is cutting off communication with the island. If so, we are in a fine condition, for provision will be excess dear. God preserve us from danger.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Governing bodies deny Ocean Hotel accusations. The Isle of Wight Council and Hampshire Constabulary have denied claims made against them by the former freeholders of the Ocean Hotel. In a statement to the press earlier this week, Phoenix Commercial Property Development, PCPD, revealed it has walked away from the derelict Sandown eyesore and the Isle of Wight. The company has sold the freehold to an American property investment company who is said to be selling it immediately on to an overseas developer. In its statement, PCPD say the action taken against it by both the Isle of Wight Council and Hampshire Constabulary has been nothing short of a witch hunt motivated by local politics. It also claims to have not been served with any criminal notice by the police and to be appealing a decision made against them by magistrates in favour of the Isle of Wight Council to the Crown Court. In response to the claims, the Isle of Wight Council said it has not received any notice of an appeal. Investigations reveal one may have been lodged, but with Durham Crown Court. The Isle of Wight Crown Court says it has not heard anything about the appeal since it was lodged and has not been asked for any further information to support it. The council has confirmed again it has been sent no notice of the appeal from either court. Durham Crown Court has been approached for clarification. On July the 7th, 4 days before the Community Protection Notice deadline, Hampshire Constabulary confirmed PCPD had acknowledged receipt of the notice. However, the company deny this and say it believes the police may have served the notice to an incorrect address, but it was certainly a false statement to claim they had acknowledged receipt. Hampshire Constabulary confirmed that the company was served with a CPN notice and police are investigating an alleged breach as such. The process is currently going through the courts, so the police were unable to confirm anything further. The matter came before the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court for the first hearing September the 13th, when Stephen Purvis, now a former company director at PCPD, was supposed to appear. Mr. Purvis was not present, however, so the case was adjourned until the 4th of October. A spokesperson for the police force say they are aware of the company's intention to appeal police action and are reviewing the matter. Neither public body wished to respond further to the comments made by PCPD.
Hello, this is Francis.
And this is Jerry. Before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's society news. Swimming will resume on Monday at Medina Swimming Pool between 1:15 and 2:15 p.m. The cost is just £5 and members have full use of the pool. Last Tuesday saw the start of our weekly yoga sessions at Millbrook House and everyone thoroughly enjoyed it, and therefore it will be a weekly activity in the calendar. The class is open to everyone, members, volunteers and friends, and costs £3 including refreshments. Coffee and chat once again will be on Wednesday starting at 10 a.m. All are very welcome to come along and speak to members and staff. The cost is £1 for coffee and cake.
If you have ever fancied having a go at tandem bike riding, we have now a contact of someone who is willing to take you out for a ride along the cycle track. So if you would like more information, please do not hesitate calling the office. We have now sourced a new venue for horse riding, and therefore if you would like to go out riding, please call the office and book a space. Our next monthly stride is next Friday the 30th of September, starting at Millbrook House and walking to Shorewell for a pub brunch. The next God's Hill Coffee Morning is on the 4th of October at the Old Smithy, starting at 10:30 a.m. Our 13th story writing competition has been launched this week, so if you are a budding writer and fancy entering, please call the office or visit our website for more details and to download an entry form. This year's theme is the sea.
Island NHS keeping stum. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust has refused to answer questions about how £10 million came to be passed to Portsmouth University Hospital to help pay for a new ward. The money was part of a £48 million allocation made to the Island Trust during the COVID pandemic, and the controversial decision has attracted criticism from many islanders. Although the money has been used to help construct a new ward, which is now fully open, there is no guarantee that beds will be available for islanders when they are needed, as they are in general use. In response to a Freedom of Information request from the Isle of Wight Observer, asking for details of how the decision was made and copies of the supporting evidence that was taken into account, a statement came from the hospital which said, "The information you have requested is linked to a business case currently being reviewed by regulators as they consider funding approval. However, another Freedom of Information request made to Portsmouth University Hospital Trust revealed that the £10 million has already been paid out by the Department of Health in 8 tranches between March 21 and February this year. The Isle of Wight Observer has asked for an internal review of the decision to withhold relevant information and will appeal the decision to the Information Commissioner if necessary. A further Freedom of Information request to the Isle of Wight NHS Trust has revealed that fewer than half of the board have an Isle of Wight address. A statement from the Trust said all members of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust executive team, as with any other role, are appointed for their particular skill set and for the expertise that they can bring to the role. Only 9 of the 19 members of the board have island addresses.
Joan has a birthday to remember. A 105-year-old had a birthday to remember as she was inundated by more than 2,300 cards and a visit from trike and bike riders of the Royal British Legion. Known only as Joan, the Blackwater Mill residential home in Blackwater pulled out all the stops for its oldest resident. Care home manager Penny Taiu said, "We put out a request for island residents to help make Joan's birthday a special one, and we were absolutely amazed at the response. We're still opening the cards now. We can't thank people enough. There were lots of flowers and gifts as well, and the visit from the bikes absolutely made her day, as well as her pet Labrador Larry, who is now being looked after by a friend who made a guest appearance." Graham Pearce, who organised the ride-out, said, "I saw a notice put up on Facebook, as so many things are, and I mentioned it to my partner Dawn, who said it would be a great idea. It was something special and different for someone who had seen so much in her life. Joan was completely overwhelmed when we turned up. She really couldn't understand why everyone was making a fuss of her." Joan was born in Coventry and was a medical secretary to an orthopaedic surgeon at the city's hospital for 40 years. She lived in Sandown for many years after coming to the island for many holidays with husband Arthur when he retired as an accountant in 1979. As well as the visit from bikes, Joan's day was made complete with songs from former Hollyoaks star Sarah Jane Buckley and Sarah Harris, with a performance by saxophonist David Plummer.
Pharmacists' plea for prescription patients. A plea has gone out for patients to be patient with pharmacists when trying to get prescriptions. People have been getting frustrated due to lack of pharmacists, which has seen many chemists temporarily close their doors due to not being able to operate without a pharmacist. It's not just reduced hours either. J Hoots in Ventnor suddenly closed last Wednesday until further notice, according to a sign on the door, and the town's Boots has not been operating full opening hours for several months now. It has seen vast amounts of people switch to Shankling for their prescriptions, but this has put pressure on services in the town. Gary Warner, owner of Regent Pharmacy, which has branches in Shankling and East Cowes, pleaded with patients to be patient. He said, "The shortage of pharmacists is the result of an NHS policy which is being felt particularly acutely on the island. This means that some pharmacies are having to close, not because they want to, but because there are no pharmacists available to work here. The remaining pharmacies are having to work beyond their normal capacity to meet the needs of all patients. That means everyone is working under even more pressure at a time when everyone believes that pharmacy is already at breaking point. Please be a patient. Nobody is doing this deliberately, and everyone is doing their best and beyond to help you." Jahoots told the county press, "I can confirm that the branch is not closing. The notice was an error. The store was closed for that day only. The county press has gone back for clarification as the pharmacy has been closed for several days.
Appeal after child seriously hurt in crash. A 12-year-old boy was in hospital with serious injuries to his face after a serious collision in Lake. At around 4:40 p.m. on Tuesday, a grey Mercedes A160 and the boy, who was riding his bicycle on Lake Hill Road, collided at the junction with New Common Road. Hampshire Constabulary launched an appeal for dash cam footage showing the car or bike in the moments beforehand. If you can help, call police on 101 or visit the website and quote 44220 383370. The road was closed for a number of hours.
Island Harbour goes into administration. Island Harbour has gone into administration, it has been confirmed. Business Rescue, Recovery and Insolvency Company Lucas Rose has been appointed to deal with the administration and inquiries from concerned parties. The county press has asked for further details about what elements of the harbour, a popular tourist destination, are affected, but has yet to get clarification. Univend, the company that owned Island Harbour at Binfield on the outskirts of Newport, is currently uncontactable. The company website is also down. Berth holders told the county press when the story broke that they had heard nothing officially. Boat owners with marine insurance should find themselves covered for getting gates unlocked. Richardson's Yacht Services said that they were communicating with the administrators and open for business as normal. The Spice Bus, used by the Spice Girls in the Spice World movie, is also on site. It was owned by Univend and was rented out for people to holiday in.
Cyclists taken. A man was taken to hospital following a collision in Newport on Sunday morning. Police were called to a slow crash between a car and cyclists at the junction of Halbury Lane and Fairley Road at around 8:23 a.m. The cyclist, a 47-year-old man from Newport, hit the car windscreen and was taken to hospital due to his injuries.
Have you ever wanted to own your own fish and chip shop? A popular Newport chippy is searching for new owners after the business was listed for sale. Newport Fish and Chips on the High Street offers freshly cooked food to take away, including kebabs, burgers and pizzas. Under the current ownership, the business opens from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day, including bank holidays.
Driver hurt in collision. The Middle Road was closed on Sunday morning after a crash involving a Range Rover and a Honda Civic on the outskirts of Newport. Police were called at around 10:30 a.m. to the crash, which happened outside the Blacksmith's Arms. Ambulance teams were called to assist the driver of the Honda, a 23-year-old man from London, who suffered injuries to his arm and back. The Range Rover driver was a 52-year-old from Kingsbridge in Devon.
King's ex-gardener slams botanics. King Charles, former kitchen gardener at Highgrove, who was trained at Ventnor Botanic Garden, has added his voice to those concerned by the direction the once lauded garden is taking. David Pearce slammed the rewilding, sustainable Ventnor method being employed as being nothing more than a greenwashing smokescreen at the expense of a well-loved visitor attraction, educational centre and internationally acclaimed plant collection. He said in a letter to the county press, "I firmly believe that something must be done before there is little else left and a national treasure is lost. Whilst it is still reversible, we must act." Mr. Pearce was not the only one to speak out. Simon Goodenough, the garden's former curator, recently criticised the way it was being managed. In the same week, the garden's Friends Society withdrew their funding and support. Chair Valerie Pitts emailed all 300 plus members to inform them that they would no longer fund plants for the living collection until they can be assured that the plants can be appropriately planted and cared for. John Curtis, who took over the garden from the Isle of Wight Council 10 years ago, responded to all the points made at the time and said the garden was transitioning from the methods of traditional horticulturalists and instead creating synthetic ecosystems which take years to create. He said, "We believe the future of gardening in the face of climate change and accelerating plant extinction rates will celebrate this approach. We call this method the Ventnor method. It is not a flower-filled, quaint English border with graduated heights of planting in 3s and 5s. The council spokesman said this week, Ventnor Botanic Gardens has 125 lease on the land, which is owned by the Isle of Wight Council. The lease requires it to be used as a botanic garden together with ancillary uses. Any proposed changes or amendments to the lease would need agreement from both parties. We are aware of comments regarding some aspects of the gardens, but we are not aware of any specific breaches of the lease or moves towards changing it." Between 2016 and 2018, Mr. Pearce was an apprentice at Ventnor Botanical Gardens. He was funded, tutored and developed by the Friends Society. Mr. Pearce, nurtured at the garden during his apprenticeship, secured a place on the highly competitive RHS Wisley diploma, and after qualifying went to Highgrove, where he was kitchen gardener to the then Prince of Wales, now King Charles. Mr. Pearce, 25, now runs the historic garden of Whatley Manor, a 12-acre arts and crafts garden and country house hotel near Highgrove, leading a team of 4 gardeners.
Newport High Street Community Cafe closes. An Island Community Cafe closed its doors for the final time last Friday, but vows to make a return, albeit with a different purpose. The living room was a feature of Newport High Street for over 8 years, serving hot and cold food. However, for many reasons, the decision was made to close the kitchen and focus on being a heat bank or warm place for people to hang out throughout the winter. The change will see the revived community hub, as it will be renamed, serving hot and cold drinks at affordable prices and continue its suspended drinks scheme so it is free for those who cannot afford it. This will involve working with volunteers to run the hub, which currently has enough to open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. But the director hopes the church and others will step up and help them open more. Revive Community Hub also runs Newport Youth Cafe, as well as other projects at the living room site.
First new road surfaces. Cowleys Hill, the main Shankling to Ventnor Road, was the first to have the work undertaken. It completed as a section of, which was the first to complete this section of new programme of high friction surfacing, which is being carried out by Island Roads. Island Roads is laying new anti-skid surfacing or replacing worn sections at more than a dozen sites in a 3-week programme which started this week. Work will be done at night under either a road closure or with temporary traffic lights in operation. Bright coloured high friction surfaces, HFS, is typically applied on the approaches to busy junctions as at pedestrian crossings or at sharp bends on roads with higher speeds. HFS will also be laid at the following sites: Blackwater Hollow on the bends between Bridleway 41 and Birchmoor Lane, Calbourne Road, Newport on the approach to Carrisbrook, Merston Lane, Godshill at the approach to Bohemia Corner, Pyle Street, Newport at the approach to Drill Hall Road, Culver Parade Sandown at the pedestrian crossing outside Dinosaur Isle, Ventnor High Street Junction with Madeira Road, Marlborough Road Ryde at the junction with Somerset Road, Berry Shoot, Chillerton at the junction with Berry Lane, Cockleton Lane, Gurnard at the junction with Hilton Road, Gurnard Pines, and Whitwell Road, Ventnor outside Ventnor Rugby Club, Ventnor Road at Apps Heath.
Sailing for all, legs or no legs. A group of amputees has spent a weekend in Cowes overcoming their disabilities and learning the basics of sailing. The would-be sailors were guests of the Andrew Castle Foundation, ACF, based at the Cowes Corinthian Yacht Club. Very few of those in the group had any sailing experience, but by the second day had helped to rig a boat and been given the chance to take the helm. The foundation's director, Matt Greer, said there was amazing camaraderie. We had a mix of ages and gender, but everyone had something in common in that they all had a disability, and most had lost either one leg or both. In fact, we had 20 sailors and 20 legs. No one in the group had met before, and it was great to see how barriers were broken down once everyone realised they were all in the same boat, so to speak. The weather was perfect, warm, a gentle breeze and lots of sunshine. The event was held in conjunction with HK Physio Limited, a specialist organisation dedicated to supporting amputees through physiotherapy, exercise and rehabilitation. Sailing has been just one of the activities provided by the company, along with kayaking, mountain biking and any other sport that patients feel they would like to try. According to Matt, the weekend proved such a success that the Foundation and HK Physio hope to repeat the exercise next year. Some of the sailors were so exhilarated by the experience they didn't want to go home. Being able to offer something like this is unrivaled when it comes to people's mental health and restoring confidence and self-esteem. The sailors all stayed at UKSA, one of the few places able to offer fully accessible accommodation within the town.
Crash causes delays. An accident at the top of Binstead Hill caused delays on Wednesday evening. Police were called out just after 5 p.m. to the incident, which involved a car and a cyclist. Traffic was restricted to one lane and Southern Vectis reported delays to their service. The cyclist suffered an injury to his arm.
900 speeding motorists caught over the summer. A crackdown on speeding led to 900 Ireland motorists being stopped by police over the summer. Hampshire Constabulary's Safer Roads Unit caught 268 drivers in May, 221 in June, 269 in July and 142 in August. The police say they regularly receive feedback and reports from the public about issues relating to driving standards and road safety on the Isle of Wight, and the information they receive helps them to identify hotspots. Among other sites, activity took place on the Military Road and in a number of towns including Newport, Wootton, Ryde, Fishbourne, Binstead, Whippingham, East Cowes, Apps Heath, Brading, Sandown, Ventnor and Yarmouth. Their efforts will be enhanced by the introduction of 2 dedicated island-based road policing officers expected to be in post later this year. Teams also regularly target drivers who carry out the fatal 4 driving habits that often lead to serious or fatal collisions: drunk driving, driving without a seatbelt, speeding and using a mobile phone whilst driving. In the period August the 17th to September the 19th, RP ARV officers issued 36 tickets to drivers on top of their other duties, with 28 of these relating to Fatal 4 offences. Officers also target road users who drive without legal documentation, such as valid licence, insurance or tax, as well as drivers with defective vehicles or illegal number plates.
Rental crisis as market shrinks. The Isle of Wight's rental market has shrunk dramatically since the start of the COVID pandemic, new figures reveal. In an Isle of Wight Council document, officers say the island's housing situation has fundamentally changed in the last 18 months, leaving very few rental properties. Data acquired by the council from estate agents shows rental property availability has dropped from an average of 350 homes a month in December 2019 to around 60 in October 21. Rising costs for private landlords, as well as increasing regulations and taxation introduced in the last 12 months, have prompted many to leave the private rented sector altogether. Traditionally, the private rented sector has accommodated around 18% of all households, roughly 15,000 families. But the authority estimated around 5,000 properties have been sold and lost to the rental market. An impact of the regulatory changes, officers say, has led to owners and landlords shifting into the staycation market, where there are higher weekly profits and at the moment less regulation. The council has reportedly seen a 44% increase in the number of properties registered as holiday lets since May 2019, 915, to May 2022, 1,134. While short-term holiday lets are not the only reason the island faces a housing crisis, the council says it has added to it for many working low and medium income families, including key workers in health and social care and other essential public services. The latest council figures show that at the end of June there were 2,465 people on the council's housing register who urgently needed housing. To keep houses available in the rental market and available for islanders, the council is proposing to require holiday lets operating for more than 140 days a year to require planning permission.
Big clean-up at Colwell. A group of Yarmouth Sailing Club members and friends took part in a beach clean at Colwell Bay, picking up 216 pounds of rubbish. Organiser Laura Wason said, "We spread out across the beach and sea walls in both directions towards Totland as well as Fort Albert, and in addition also picked litter up from the car park and footpaths. We collected a grand total of 216 pounds, 76 kilograms, and I am delighted. By coincidence, the Marine Conservation Society has chosen their annual beach clean dates to be from the 16th to the 25th of September, so that ties in nicely. Their website states, "Ocean pollution is one of the greatest threats to the marine environment, with about 40% of the world's marine mammals threatened with extinction due to pollution. Cleaning up our beaches is a practical way to stop litter entering the water, so this is a great opportunity to help make our beaches and oceans cleaner and safer for humans and wildlife alike. A huge thank you to everyone who came along and did a sterling job picking up rubbish and helping keep our beautiful coastline clean. I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible for our next YSC Beach Clean, which is on Saturday, December the 17th, from 10 a.m. to noon at Fort Victoria."
Survey on ethnicity is genuine, say GPs. Text messages to patients of an East Cowes doctor's surgery asking them to complete an ethnicity survey are not a scam, the surgery has confirmed. Despite rumblings on social media, the East Cowes Medical Centre on Church Path has been quick to confirm the text messages alerting patients to the survey were genuine. In posts on social media, patients said that they had it confirmed from the practice it was not sent by them. However, a spokesman for the East Cowes practice confirmed the text containing a link to the survey was genuine. The survey is necessary, they said, as the surgery carries out an equality impact assessment to ensure that it has the right services for the area. They said the texts had gone out to around 400 patients who had incomplete records, and they were just trying to fulfil their equality obligations. Addressing the comments on social media, the spokesman said that they will be looking into where the information came from.
Ever fancied getting involved in the theatre? Trinity Theatre in Cowes is celebrating 125 years of Cowes Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society, CAODS. CAODS is one of the longest surviving AmDram groups in the country. It has been entertaining audiences since the 1880s and continues to do so in its own theatre. The group is entirely voluntary and relies on members to get involved with all aspects of theatre, including acting, directing, sound, lighting, set construction, wardrobe, make-up, bar duty, front of house, box office, and many others. There is also a varied calendar of social events which members and friends are very welcome to attend. Edna Crosby, president, said, "The theatre group, founded in 1897 under the patronage of Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Beatrice, has been welcoming visitors from the Isle of Wight and beyond for 125 years, with performances that vary from Gilbert and Sullivan's light operettas and our famous Christmas pantomimes to Wife After Death, the black comedy, which will be our next production in October." Lynn Narroway, who recently moved to Cowes and became involved with Trinity Theatre, said, "We'd love to get more people involved in Trinity Theatre, especially by relaunching our youth theatre group. We'd like to hopefully encourage more of the Cowes community to join us in bringing more theatre to the Isle of Wight. You can find out more by emailing membership@caods.org.uk.
Life-threatening cases only to St Mary's Hospital. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust declared another critical incident on Wednesday, the 3rd this year, and issued a statement saying that new patients could only be treated if they have life-threatening conditions or injuries. Delays in discharging people who are fit to return home or into social care settings meant that St Mary's Hospital reached full capacity and some planned surgery was postponed. Steve Parker, Medical Director, said, "The safety of our patients and our staff remains our top priority. We are working closely with partners to improve the flow of patients through the hospital, and we are appealing to our local community to help us ensure that patients get home as soon as possible and to only come to our emergency department, ED, for life-threatening conditions and injuries." While we are in this period of sustained high demand, we urge you not to attend the ED unless it is an emergency. NHS 111 online can help you find where to get help and support. The critical incident was lifted yesterday, Thursday, but it was stressed that the island's only hospital continues to face ongoing challenges. The Trust said people should collect family and friends as soon as they are ready to be discharged and only call 999 in the event of a life-threatening illness or injury.
Coffee company wants to improve warehouses. An island family business has unveiled major plans to regenerate a site at Newport Harbour. Already based in Blackhouse Quay on the River Medina, Isle of Wight Espresso Company is looking to improve its coffee roasting and processing facility, as well as creating a coffee shop, visitor centre and accredited barista training centre. The company have been based on the harbour site since 1990, leasing 2 warehouses from the Isle of Wight Council. Now one lease has run out. The company wants to buy both sites, feeling it is the most viable option to enable development due to the significant level of investment needed. The company also runs Cafe Isola on Upper St James Street, Newport, but is looking to expand. The company says the existing warehouse requires significant work just to bring it up to fully usable condition. This includes removing a suspected asbestos roof, which has been leaking since before they moved in, stabilisation works and connection to drainage systems. It wants to fully regenerate the warehouse to improve its flood defences and create a multi-use space and lease an area of waterfront from the council to provide floating amenities such as eco-focused holiday accommodation. The council's Harbour Committee is being asked to approve the Isle of Wight Espresso Company as a special purchaser of the 2 warehouses at its meeting on Wednesday, September the 28th. Newport Harbour is due to undergo major regeneration work, but investment is being sought to bring the council's master plan to life. The proposals from the coffee company are outside of the area earmarked for regeneration, but the council said the investment would be complementary to the regeneration plans and enhance the appeal of the harbour as a visitor destination. While the Isle of Wight Council would lose a rental income stream of around £175 a year for the 2 leases, the sale would result in money that would be ring-fenced to the Newport Harbour accounts.
From Spartan to Spitfire, Pauline Gower wrote her history in the sky. A new biography by Alison Hill, Pauline Gower, pioneering leader of the Spitfire women, includes contributions from Isle of Wight pilot, the late Mary Ellis and others with island connections. Mary Ellis ran Sandown Airport for many years after the Second World War. During the war, she was an Air Transport Auxiliary ATA pilot and delivered 400 Spitfires, flew 76 types of plane and an incredible 1,000 aircraft overall. Pauline Gower set up and commanded the ATA Women's Section throughout the war. Mary shared positive memories of her commandment with author Alison Hill on 2 occasions. Once at White Waltham, ATA headquarters, and later at her home near Sandown Airport in 2018 when Alison was flown over to visit her and had just began thinking of writing about Pauline. This article's author, Anne Grant, who runs the Solent Aviatrix website, said, "I started my website about 15 years ago to record the histories of pioneering women, pilots connected to the Isle of Wight and south of England. I was lucky to meet a few of the ATA women, including Mary. I was able to connect my friend Alison with Mary and others, like Pauline's son Michael and Dorothy Spicer's daughter Patricia, pilot Rod Hall-Jones and artist Charlotte Halliday. They have all made valuable contributions to the new book." Dorothy Spicer is important to Isle of Wight aviation history because she trained for her advanced construction engineering licence at Spartan Aircraft, a subsidiary of Saunders Roe, SARO, of East Cowes. She did so in secret, aided by SARO owner Sir Edwin Elliot Vernon Rowe. At the time, women were barred from this qualification. When she passed the Air Ministry tests, it caused turbulence in Britain's aviation industry and beyond. She became international news as the first woman in the world to do it, much to the chagrin of many men who opposed it. Now, 90 years on, young women of today are encouraged to take up apprenticeships in aviation and aerospace industries, including here on the island. They would be astonished to learn how hard it was for Dorothy and her pilot partner Pauline to forge a career for themselves in that sector. Anne continues, Rod Hall-Jones owns the last flying three-seater Spartan in the world. Rod, who lives in New Zealand, hopes his biplane can return to the Isle of Wight, where it was built in 1932. Rod's contribution to Alison's book describes the complexities of maintaining a Spartan in perfect flying condition. We therefore get an insight into the Gower Spicer daily routine of running a joy flight business and flying over 20,000 passengers. Pauline and Dorothy owned 2 island-built Spartans. Patricia has a painting of her mother Dorothy by Edward Halliday, renowned portrait artist to the Queen and Prince Philip. Charlotte Halliday said, "My father was a friend of Dorothy Spicer and her husband Richard. I have a copy of the painting on my desk." His 1930s portrait is so evocative of the era, almost haunting in quality now. Charlotte is delighted that Edward's painting is in the book. Alison Hill's previous book includes Sisters in Spitfires, a poetry collection dedicated to the ATA women, and 50 Ways to Fly, which included a poem by Pauline Gower. This was sold in support of the British Women's Pilot Association at Mary Ellis's memorial services in Cowes in 2018. Alison read Spitfire Salute, her tribute to Mary. Pauline Gower, pioneering leader of the Spitfire Women, is on sale at major bookshops, Amazon, or from publishers, The History Press. Anne is a White Aviation Museum member and is running the Spartan Home to UK campaign on her Solent Aviatrix website, where a downloadable presentation can be found. Rod must sell his plane by the end of this year. Anyone who can help in any way, please contact Anne via her website or via White Aviation Museum. For more information, see solentAviatrix.wordpress.com/2022/06/27/Spartan-Home to UK campaign.
My View by Rebecca Roney. Isle of Wight housing crisis needs resolving. In last figures reported in the county press in May 2022, there are currently 2,466 applicants waiting on the housing register. Bearing in mind that spare bedrooms are against policy, the number 2,466, bad as it is nowhere near the true amount of people living life in constant instability. Numbers broken down from the May 2022 showed people registered for the following: 1,185 one-bed, 756 two-bed, 402 three-bed, 104 four-bed, 19 5 or 6-bed. The 2,466 is only the applicants. Many have partners, families and dependents. Add to this the 23 homeless singles couples and the 42 homeless families, the many vulnerable kids sofa surfing. A realistic estimate is that we have around 6,500 people living in temporary accommodation, waiting for something approaching a stable place to call home and build a life. In order to house them, we need to build around 2,500 houses. The Council's housing strategy key actions include facilitating 100 houses per year, mainly affordable homes, and maximising the provision of affordable housing on council-owned land. There are 3 gigantic, massive, conflicting statements in this 19-word statement of jargon. Firstly, affordable housing, according to Gov.uk, is affordable housing includes social rented, affordable rented and intermediate housing provided to specified eligible households whose needs are not met by the market. It can be a new build property or a private sector property that has been purchased for use as an affordable home. Other figures bandied about have been affordable rent, being 80% of market rent or price. Affordable has become a buzzword that means naff all, is totally out of reach for the majority, but probably looks good on a PowerPoint presentation. If a key action of the council housing strategy is to facilitate 100 houses, does that mean actually build? If so, then at their current rate of action, we should have enough houses to give all those in current need of a home in a quarter of a century. Baldrick had better plans. I also take issue with the maximising the provision of affordable housing on council-owned land. That land is owned by us. It is not to be sold off to the highest bidder. I have never understood how land bestowed to the people can be sold off without a murmur. We have the land, build on it. We do need housing to be built. We need truly affordable housing for the thousands languishing on housing lists, being pushed from pillar to post. We do not need new developments with a few affordable units tacked on to tick boxes. Those on waiting lists are already in schools, GP surgeries, and are part of our communities. Any building strategy must, in all conscience, put those in unstable housing at the top of the list when it comes to providing homes. The resulting fall in people in crisis would be a wonderful thing. P.S. What has happened to the £40 million the Council agreed to borrow in February 2022 to build houses for islanders, address the housing crisis, and earmark £2.5 million to start a council-owned housing market? Would you like to know more about scams and doorstop crime? Scams can affect all of us, and it is believed that the UK loses between £8 and £10 billion every year to scams. Furthermore, it is suspected that only 5% of scams are ever reported, writes Sally Ash, Fair Trading Officer at the Isle of Wight Council. Raising awareness around scams is the easiest and best way to prevent people from becoming victims. If you are a member of a community group, one of our team will be happy to come and talk to you about scams, the harms they can do, and what you can do to prevent yourself from becoming a victim. We can't stop the scammers trying, but we can learn how to make ourselves safer so that we don't fall for their attempts. Please contact Trading Standards at iow.gov.uk to arrange a visit. If you are an organisation that is interested in the work that IWASP does, or you work with vulnerable people and would like to know more, please contact us via the same address above. Anyone who is interested in learning how to keep themselves and those they care about safe can do so by going to the Friends Against Scams webpage, www.friendsagainstscams.org.uk, and watch a short awareness-raising video. Reporting a scam. For advice on scams, call Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline 0808 250 5050. To report a scam, call Action Fraud 0300 123 2040. If you are concerned about someone you care about, or for more information on scams, visit www.iwasp.org.uk.
Would you like to learn or improve your chess? If the answer's yes, then join the Saturday lunchtime chess programme, Chesscraft, starting up again tomorrow, September the 24th, 12 p.m. until 1:30 p.m. Be shown fun ways to learn the game, with a chance to make new friends. There will also be refreshments and music. It's free to sign up. Just call 822 437 or email info@independentarts.org.uk.
White Harmony Concert, Friday the 30th of September 2022 at 7 p.m. at Wootton Bridge Methodist Church. Free parking in the Isle of Wight Steam Railway car park opposite the church. Retiring collection. Any queries, please contact Jenny Lake 882 809.
The following are on at Medina Theatre, and you can book your tickets by calling 823 884 or go to the website www.medinatheatre.co.uk. Into the Groove, Friday 30th of September at 7:30. Tickets £27.50. Mum's the Word, Saturday 1st of October, also at 7:30. Tickets £27. The Carpenters Experience, Sunday the 2nd of October, 7:30. Tickets £20. John Bovey Always, Friday 7th of October, 7:30. Tickets £23 or £20 concessions. Voodoo Room, A Night of Hendrix, Clapton and Cream, Saturday 8th of October, 7:30. Tickets £22 or £19 concessions. Roy Orbison and the Travelling Wilburys Experience, Friday 14th of October, 7:30. Tickets £23.50 or £21 for seniors and juniors. Ralph McTell, Sunday 16th of October, 7:30. Tickets £28. Dirty Dusting, advisory age of 16 plus, Wednesday 19th of October, 7:30. Tickets £24. And the Halloween Spooktacular is Wednesday the 26th of October at 2 p.m. Tickets are £13 and that's £12 for juniors.
Shanklin Theatre, every Thursday until the 20th of October at 8:15, Beyond the West End. Saturday the 24th of September at 7:30, T-Rextasy. Friday the 30th of September, 7:30, Elvis, the King's Voice. Saturday the 1st of October at 7:30, Story of Guitar Heroes. Friday the 7th of October at 8 p.m, Shakespeare's Macbeth. Sunday the 9th of October, 7:30, the Black Blues Brothers. Friday, the 14th of October, Take That Experience at 7:30. Tuesday, 18th of October at 7:30, Albert Lee. Box office 868 or book online at www.shanklintheatre.com.
New Church Malvoice Choir returned to Shanklin Methodist Church in Regent Street for their September Serenade on Wednesday 28th of September at 7:45 p.m. with Louise Jackerman flute and India Sully vocal. There's a large raffle, refreshments, free entry, retiring collection for island charities and good causes. All welcome.
Coastwatch event. The Needles National Coastwatch Institution is holding a concert and raffle in Freshwater Memorial Hall next Sunday, October the 2nd, to raise funds. The Cowbridge Welsh Male Voice Choir will sing a varied programme of songs. Tickets £10 including tea and coffee, cash only, from the Cabin, Freshwater, Orchard Stores, Freshwater Bay and Bryston Village Shop.
Understanding school numbers. While the National Education Union is in favour of supporting small rural schools and generally keeping them open, we realise this has to be qualified with an understanding of the impact of island education as a whole. Schools Plan Under Fire, County Press 16th of September 22 states, when disproportionately affected by the falling pupil numbers, schools are at risk of spiralling decline. Austerity has added to these challenges, but any decision must not dilute the education of the 14 designated rural primary schools or the other 24 primary schools. There are 1,195 unfilled island primary places. Will tweaking the published admission number, PAN, i.e. the maximum number of pupils that can be admitted to each year, be viable? If a business loses customers, costs increase. Likewise with schools, per pupil costs increase. Consider energy. One primary said it expected a £29,000 increase as it came off a fixed tariff earlier this year. Even with fewer pupils, buildings need heating. Staffing and curriculum. Fewer pupils mean cutting staff roles or wages. Support staff already receive a meagre salary and often insufficient hours to fully fulfil their role. When more expensive experienced staff are shed, pupils and staff lose key in-school support. As staff decrease, additional responsibilities, of which there are many, will likely be added to the head's already overwhelming workload. We welcome any plan able to keep small schools open while avoiding all of the pitfalls that less funding brings to those schools with fewer pupils. This includes any impact on small schools themselves, as well as on any neighbouring schools. Lowering pupil admission numbers has already been realised in a number of island schools in recent years. Without significant increased central funding or decreasing costs and thereby standards, it's difficult to see an obvious desirable solution with 1,195 primary places unfilled. As stated in the article, when schools are disproportionately affected by falling pupil numbers, schools are at risk of spiralling decline. Sadly, without significant additional funding, it may be a reality that cannot continue to be ignored.
Please show people more consideration. From Tina Snow in Newport. I am writing to raise awareness of the daily hazards totally blind people face on a daily basis and the anxiety caused by selfish and inconsiderate people. I was crossing the crossing near McDonald's with my guide dog, Quiz, on the morning of September the 17th. She did an emergency stop. Either an e-scooter or pushbike came towards me at high speed. It was so close that I could feel the air as it rushed past. The male rider shouted an expletive. I got to the other side of the road and my heart was racing and I was very shook up. I call for a total ban on e-scooters and pushbikes in Newport. It should be a pedestrian-friendly area. I also call for all e-scooter riders and cyclists to have taken some proficiency test and be fully insured. Frustratingly, I am unable to report this crime to the police as I can give no details or description of rider or vehicle involved. Please be considerate and think of pedestrians and disabled people.
Solar farms will spoil views, by M. Green from Thorley. Tony Hart's letter, County Press 2nd of September 22, lamenting the use of agricultural land for solar farms is timely given the proposed application from Low Carbon to use 100 acres of farmland in Thorley for a new solar farm. The solar panels and their associated infrastructure would be utilitarian structures in this countryside location. The panels, along with their regular arrangement in long rows, would be out of keeping with the character of the area, creating discordant element at odds with the historic and mature landscape of the locality. For those using nearby footpaths and from the many vantage points from Tennyson, Afton and Brookdowns, from the countryside to the west and from nearby residences, this scheme would have an adverse, overbearing and dominating effect on visual amenity. The beauty of the views of farmland across to and from the Downs goes without saying, and it is our responsibility to maintain such.
John Nuttall, Ryde, Plan Not Wanted. With the ongoing development of Ryde Esplanade, councillors who voted for this ridiculous scheme should be ashamed of themselves. Most people do not want this so-called uplift to Ryde, costing £10 million. This ongoing work is total chaos to the surrounding areas. Traffic is having to negotiate around the construction work. Why waste this funding on this scheme? It's not justified in my opinion. We can still travel down the pier to the Fast Cat, so a new entrance is not needed. We will finish up with new coloured paving slabs and trees planted as shown on the plan. It's very badly designed and there's no real advantage, with buses all going one way up George Street. You could not make it up. And the children's splash pool is not working and not in the plans for modification. And from Roger MacDonald in Wootton at Wootton Bridge, with the closure of Ryde Bus Station and the stops being relocated to a part of the Esplanade exposed to the full impact of inclement weather during the coming winter months, will the council be providing suitable shelter for intending passengers and our dedicated Southern Vectis drivers?
And it's goodbye from Jerry.
And goodbye from Francis.
A message from Terry Mitchell. This is a reminder for you to return your red and blue talking news wallets if you have any, as we are recently receiving a low quantity of them this past week. The In Touch programme follows. Safety on the streets and early health screenings. Sarah Ledbetter and her friends could have had a near miss on the streets of Manchester when they veered into a road. They weren't aware that they had done this as there was no curb, tactile paving or crossing box to indicate the change between pavement and road. This was the straw that broke the camel's back, and she will be taking the Department for Transport to a judicial review to mainly assess the legal safety guidance and requirements for the height of curbs. Sarah joins us to tell us more about it. Andrew Hodgson is the president of the National Federation of the Blind of the UK, and he shares his thoughts on this case and also on e-scooters after Kent County Council have decided to discontinue their trials in and around Canterbury. Keeping with the theme of safety for this programme, we hear from GP Katie Elliott about how blind and visually impaired people can access cancer screening programmes. She wants to know from you how you have navigated such programmes and from your experience how you'd improve the service. She explains more about the screenings available to you, when you should be having them and more.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Tonight, safety is our watchword. Safety on the roads, safety on the pavements, where there are still any left, and safety from avoidable illness. Are blind and partially sighted people getting the information they need to identify potentially dangerous symptoms? But first, for more than a decade now, there's been a feeling amongst many visually impaired people that getting around is becoming more difficult, and that policies which could make the streets safer for blind and partially sighted people have been taking a back seat. In particular, the increased prevalence of so-called shared spaces, where vehicles, cyclists and pedestrians are expected to mingle, have proved controversial and unpopular with many blind people. Well, now the High Court has given permission for a judicial review brought by a visually impaired woman over the Department of Transport's guidance on tactile paving. The argument hinges on the height of pavements and the extent to which they give blind walkers a clear demarcation between relatively safe pavements and the potentially dangerous road. The woman in question is Sarah Ledbetter, and she joins me. Sarah, before you spell out your quarrel with the Department of Transport, tell me about the incident which gave rise to your bringing your case.
Me and my two friends was in Manchester with my guide dog Nellie. We had to go to one of the shops in Primark. We went to cross the road. There was no curb, there was no tactile paving, there was no control crossing box or rotating cone. One of my friends is completely blind. He didn't realise that he'd gone into the road, and also my guide dog, her paws was in the road too. But the other thing was we had to get over just not that road, but tram tracks as well. And luckily for us, there was a member of the public that said, come along, we'll help you cross the road. But we didn't know that we'd gone from the pavement into the road because there was no curb there to stop us or to warn us. Right. And it was very dangerous for us.
Now, I think the judicial review is not specifically about shared spaces. So can you explain precisely what it is you say the Department of Transport has failed to do?
Not put in the minimum of 60mm curbs. In the tactile paving guidance, there is only like a small curb, like most places will have a very tiny lip, and a lot of people are tripping over that. They don't even know they exist. They can injure themselves, and really a 60mm curb is the minimum, because a long white cane user or a guide dog user will know that there's a curb there. Oh yes, that's the stop of the pavement and you're about to go into the road. And because the pavements everywhere we go are completely flat, we're just walking straight into the road. It's dangerous, and this is the part that I'm actually very keen that they actually rectify by having the judicial review.
Now, I suspect that quite a lot of people will understand why this is crucial for someone using a cane. You've explained it really clearly. You locate a substantial drop with your cane, and if there isn't one there, you miss it. What's the problem specifically for a guide dog user?
What it is, the guide dog from a young age, they are taught to go from one curb, walk a straight line either to the edge of the pavement nearest to the road or in the middle. And what you do is you go to the next curb. They know that curb is there to keep you safe, and they stop. If there's no curb there whatsoever, that dog doesn't know, and it will just walk straight into the road. So it's crucial, really, because their training includes curbs.
It isn't part of the idea of lower, gentler pavement drops to make them easier to negotiate for wheelchair users?
Exactly, but what we still want is the actual 60mm curb at one side, and then at the side of it, the gentle drop like you've just been talking about for the wheelchairs too. So it is helping and it's not hindering wheelchair users because they can't get out onto the road and cross the road in their wheelchair. But also we at the same time need that curb to keep us safe.
OK, well, we did approach the Department for Transport about this. They said they were unable to comment on an ongoing legal case. We are joined, though, by Andrew Hodgson, who's president of the National Federation of the Blind in the UK. Andrew, your argument, I believe, or your concern is that there has been consultation with the Federation over this, but that your recommendations have been ignored in the department's access guidance. I mean, what did you advise?
We advised that there should be a 60mm curb as a minimum, and that seems to have been ignored. So that is why we're very pleased that Sarah's taking the case out on our behalf. There are other aspects of the legislation that we don't like as well, but it's not the legislation, it's the guidance that we don't like. But in due course, we might be taking up that. But for the moment, we've been advised that this is the issue that we should take up.
What is it you're saying is the overall effect of this on blind people's attitude to negotiating the streets?
I think the overall effect is that we're going to, I believe, be coming on to the issue of the e-scooters shortly as well.
We are, yeah.
People, especially those who aren't that confident, are afraid to go out or nervous to go out. In years gone by, going out was relatively easy when you didn't have so many pavement obstacles and there were standard curbs and so on. And we realise, of course, that there have to be changes to make the environment more accessible for wheelchair users. But nevertheless, we feel that the legislation that was brought in for safer streets on the outset of the pandemic was not that well thought through. The pavements widened, there's less space for cars, and the vendors, the cafes, have spilt out onto the pavements and are taking up more space. This too is a hazard for visually impaired people.
Let me go quickly back to Sarah. What's the time scale on your judicial review? When's the case going to be heard?
We're now going to be waiting for a date in January of next year.
OK, well, stay with us, both of you, because this hasn't been the only development which has been seen as creating more hazardous roads. As Andrew mentioned, the increasingly visible, or for blind people, invisible presence of the e-scooter on our roads, and even more alarmingly on our pavements, has also been causing great concern. Now, the government has been running trials in a number of towns and cities because they see the e-scooter as a cheap and non-polluting alternative to the car. But there are signs that the e-scooter might be about to take a backward roll, as it were. Kent County Council is the latest local authority to decide to discontinue the government's pilot scheme after being offered the chance to extend it to 2024. Well, KCC's Cabinet Member for Transport, Councillor David Brazier, said he'd decided to truncate the scheme before someone was seriously hurt. And he told Michelle Hussein on the Today programme why they'd initially adopted it.
The agreement from us to permit the scheme, that's to say allow these scooters on the roads around Canterbury, was taken after the DFT, the Department for Transport, approached us and said, is there a good place for a trial? And we said, Canterbury, there are 2 universities there, lots of young people who are likely to be customers. On the other hand, of course, there are hundreds of illegal scooters in Canterbury, and the existence of both categories, if you like, become conflated. We have almost from the outset been constantly bombarded by members of the public who have had frights from scooters. And then, after a series of minor accidents, a retired librarian, Mrs. Sarah Carter, was knocked over by one of the scheme scooters that should not have been on the pavement, and she was quite badly injured. She was elderly and she could have been killed. So finally, recognising that the county council serves the public, the residents of Kent, I decided that enough was enough.
That was Councillor David Brazier. Sarah Ledbetter's still with us. We should stress that lady herself wasn't visually impaired, certainly as far as we know. But have you had any brushes with e-scooters?
Oh yes, definitely. At the time I was doing some filming in Birmingham, and I was stood with my retired guide dog on one side of the pavement, and the person on the e-scooter was on the other side of the pavement, and knew we were there, and just came straight at us. At the last minute he did veer off, but he slightly clipped Kiki, but all he wanted to do was go behind us and put the actual e-scooter in the rack behind me,
right,
on the pavement.
Andrew Hodgson of the National Federation. New technology always takes a time to bed in and, requires the right forms of controls to be developed. So it was with the motor car, although some would say we never got that under control. Is there a danger that blind people could be seen as the kind of Luddites of the 21st century in these kinds of debates?
I think there are wider points to these. These scooters are actually unfit for purpose structurally in any case. They're such a danger to the riders. The companies that are organising these trials, together with the councils, haven't come up with proper ways for these scooters to be parked.
So what would you like to see as far as the e-scooter is concerned? Are you suggesting that they shouldn't be on the roads at all?
I think we're suggesting that, yes.
And Sarah?
Even if there's new technology, and like you've said, they're the people that are on them and riding them will not stop riding them all over the pavement. People don't know they're coming at them or from behind them. And they're also laid down on the floor. They've just been left all over the place, and people can injure themselves or have accidents, and it's not safe. So yes, the trials need to be stopped, and also curbing the buying of the ones from the shops too.
Sarah Ledbetter, Andrew Hodgson, thank you both very much indeed. Now, still on safety, but of a rather different kind, we're always inviting you to put questions to us. But I have to say that when GP Katie Elliott got in touch with us to ask how visually impaired people got their information about important health screening programmes, we rather turned the tables on her. Katie is also Clinical Director at the Northern Cancer Alliance, and therefore the perfect person to ask what we should know. She agreed. So my first question was, what are the main cancer screening programmes that we should be aware of?
The three main cancer screening programmes, and that's the breast cancer, cervical cancer and bowel cancer screening programmes. And there are also some newer programmes in development, so that's the targeted lung health checks that some people might have come across or been invited to.
And how are people actually meant to get information about these programmes?
So anyone who's registered with their GP would automatically be invited when they become eligible, and it's based on certain age groups that are eligible for each programme. So as long as you're registered with a GP, you'll get an invitation, and you're able to let the screening teams know if you need that information in a different format, in an accessible format.
Well, this is what goes to the heart, in a way, of your inquiry to us, because I suppose my question, in a way, is how will you initially get that information, particularly if you haven't got round to telling your GP how you want information? I mean, if you don't go regularly to the doctors, you don't see the adverts up when there's a campaign on, you could easily get missed, couldn't you?
Yeah, so I think it all does come down to getting that initial appointment. So the first thing, absolutely you have to be registered with the GP. And then if the GP knows about accessibility information, then with your permission, we can then pass it on to the screening team, or you can directly contact the screening team. But I think it's about that general knowledge as well for people to know about screening programmes. And that's why I was really keen to make sure that, we help people to feel aware and confident about accessing the screening programmes.
How much is this at the discretion of individual GP surgeries, who does get access to these screening programmes and how they're told?
The invitations for the screening programmes actually come out centrally from the national screening team, so the GPs don't do the invitations for that at all. If individuals contact the screening team to let them know about accessibility needs, then they can make a permanent record on their screening record to make sure that invitations do come out in a format that the person has specified. The GP part of it, we follow up if people haven't taken part in screening, and that's where there's probably some variability. So every GP practice is incentivised to get really good uptake of the cervical screening programme, and that is something that GP practices do on site, whereas the other screening programmes happen somewhere else. So the breast screening, you have to go to the unit for the breast screening, and the bowel screening people have to do at home. I think that's one of the particularly the more challenging screening programmes.
And of course, the problem is that the rules about all these screenings are slightly different, aren't they? The ages at which you're entitled to get them, the ages at which they'll stop. So there's quite a lot of room, isn't there, for slippage, if you like?
Yes, so I think it's for women to know that as they come around their 25th birthday that they'll be invited, and that screening programme runs till they're 60, but there's a bit of variability as well. So initially the first part of the screening programme is every 3 years until you're 50, and then it's every 5 years after that. And then for the breast screening programme, that actually starts when people are 50, between 50 and 70. So it's things like that, some of those things people won't generally know about.
No. There are now rules, aren't there, originally introduced just a few years ago about people having information in the format that suits them best. Now for blind people, that could be audio, it could be braille, it could be large print, it could be email, it could be text. Do you think these rules are actually being applied?
I think when people make their preferences known, I think quite a lot is being done to try and accommodate that. But there's a bit of a mismatch at the moment still, Peter, with the communication between the different systems as well. So, for instance, just because you've told your GP about your accessibility needs, it doesn't mean that the screening programme automatically know. Those two systems don't talk to each other. There's a lot of work going on around a national reasonable adjustments flag, which would apply to any kind of additional needs that somebody might have. And that will work across the systems, but it's not quite there yet. It's not quite in place.
For a lot of blind people now, email is by far the easiest way to do things. And yet we're still hearing about surgeries who say, we don't do email. And often the reason given is confidentiality. But, nothing can be less confidential than a print letter that you have to get somebody to read to you.
Yeah, there are definitely challenges and variability in some places. And I think if you're not happy with the service you get from your GP, then, I would encourage everybody to ask around for recommendations or, surgeries where they are doing it well, because everybody should be working towards that.
Can you trigger access to a screening programme just because you want it?
Only if you're in the eligible age group. The reason that people can't just have screening outside of that age group is because the age ranges are set up based on the balance of risk of the disease versus risks of over-investigation or doing harm. But I think the really important thing as well about what we're talking about is that if people have symptoms, they must get in touch with their GP and discuss their symptoms. The screening programmes are for people who are asymptomatic. They're not for people who are experiencing symptoms.
Katie Elliott. And if you have any information about using screening programmes as a blind or partially sighted person that you'd like to pass on to Katie so that it could perhaps be shared with others, do let us know. And if you'd prefer to give that information anonymously because it's quite personal, that of course will be respected. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk. You can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338 or go to our website bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings and studio managers Sue Stone Street and Amy Brennan, stay safe. Goodbye.